Hello everyone. Last week we began the story of Jaina, in which we talked about where she came from, her time studying Dalaran, her relationship with Arthas, and teaming up with the Horde to take down Archimonde and stop the Legion's invasion. After their victory, both Thrall and Jaina set out to find new lands to settle in. The Horde, they decided to settle in the harsh, rugged land near the Baron's eastern shore, and they named the new nation Durotar in honor of Thrall's father Durotar. The Alliance refugees, led by Jaina Proudmoore, they settled in the Dustwallow Marsh and established a seaside city named Fettermore Isle. Jaina and Thrall, they continued to communicate with each other, and their uneasy truce, slowly but surely, it developed into something more permanent. Both leaders declared that they would respect the other's territory and refrain from any acts of aggression. Though their peace would last for years, the history of the world, the history between humans and orcs, that would make it rather difficult to maintain.
Hopefully we've made it in time. You've got to get word back to Thrall that...
I don't understand. What's this all about?
Those Marines... I know who they are, Rexar. They're... It's too late. He's here.
Jaina, bless the stars I found you at last. When I heard that Lordaeron fell, I despaired. But I knew you'd find a way to escape. What is this? An ogre?
Father, wait.
Father?
The Horde is no longer our enemy. The orcs have their own kingdom now.
You have always been naive, my daughter. You aren't old enough to remember what these monsters did to our homeland. The orcs and their kin cannot be trusted. They must be exterminated like the mongrels they are.
I won't let you do it, Father. You don't understand.
I understand more than you suspect, my dear. Perhaps in time you will too. Seize them all!
None other than Jaina's own father, Admiral Proudmoore, would come around and reignite the fighting. He did not see the Horde to be any different than the ones he fought with during the First and the Second War. He saw them as the same monsters that took the life of his son, not as those that showed valor and honor, stood with his daughter against the Legion for the safety of the world. They wanted the same thing that Jaina and many of her followers did, an end to the cycle of hatred between the Horde and the Alliance. The bloodshed between the factions, that was merely a distraction, since threats like the Scourge and others, they still lingered on Azeroth. The world's noble races, they needed to be united in strength to focus on their true enemies. And while Jaina did her best to convince her father of that fact, he refused to listen. This forced his daughter to make an impossible choice.
Thrall, Rexar, I come in peace. You must believe me, I had no part in my father's plans. I wish none of this had ever happened. I don't know what to do.
We've bled together on many battlefields, Jaina. We've faced untold perils as allies. But your father threatens the security of our nation and the very future of my people. You know how this has to end.
I know, Thrall. Do what you must. There is a Goblin shipyard on a nearby island that could provide you with warships of your own. With those, you could scatter the blockade surrounding Theramore. But please, spare my men if you can. My father will try to use them against you, but they're the only real family I'll have left when this is over. Please do this. For me.
We'll do all we can, Jaina. You have my word. Now you'd better make yourself scarce. The battle's about to begin.
The ruler of Fettermore stepped aside, while Rexar, Thrall, and the Horde, they destroyed the blockade, they entered her city, and confronted her father.
This is not the Horde you remember, old man. We have no interest in conquest or murder. We have paid for the sins of our forebears, in blood.
Can your blood atone for genocide, Orc? Your Horde killed countless innocents with its rampage across Stormwind and Lordaeron. Do you really think you could just sweep all that away and cast aside your guilt so easily? No, your kind will never change, and I will never stop fighting you. By fang and claw.
Unleash my strength.
It's over. Stand down, humans.
Father, why wouldn't you listen?
Above all else, Jaina,
He was a proud warrior. Remember him as such. Durotar is now safe. We have no further quarrel with these humans. We will leave your isle in peace, Jaina. I pray we never have to come here again. Farewell, sources.
With her father's death, the survivors of Daelin's fleet, they sailed back to the Eastern Kingdoms, and despite her thinking that those in Proudmoore are the only family that she has left, that's not exactly true. Her mother and her kingdom of Kal-Tiras were there as well. They weren't exactly happy to hear that Daelin's rescue mission that it had turned into one of betrayal, with his own daughter conspiring with the leaders of the Horde, stepping aside and allowing them to murder him. His people cried out for vengeance for his death, but the rest of the Alliance, they did not seek it. The plague of undeath in Lordaeron, it already left the Alliance reeling, and its other leaders had little pity for Jaina Proudmoore, who had launched a war of aggression on his own authority. In fury, the people of Kal-Tiras isolated themselves from the rest of the Alliance. But their anger, it was not focused on King Varian or any of the other Alliance leaders. Instead, they grew to hate Jaina Proudmoore, the daughter who had betrayed her family.
Beware, beware, the daughter of the sea.
The price of peace, it was a high one to pay, but Fro and Jaina, they did their very best to make it work, despite manipulations from outside sources, like demons and the Burning Blade clan. Their people had to overcome old hatreds in order to work together, and deciding the lay of the land, who gets what, it often caused friction. But the war chief of the Horde and the leader of Proudmoore, they pushed on with cool heads in a world that was full of turmoil.
4 years have passed since the mortal races banded together and stood united against the might of the Burning Legion. Though Azeroth was saved, the tenuous pact between the Horde and the Alliance has all but evaporated. The drums of war thunder once again.
It is around this time that the Black Dragon Onyxia, she decided to manipulate events in Stonewind and cause a bit of trouble. She manipulated the House of Nobles in not paying the Stonemasons Guild for the work on rebuilding Stonewind after the original Horde destroyed it, which then led to riots in the streets, the formation of the Defiance Brotherhood, and the death of Varian's wife Tiffin. The depression that set over the king, it made him an easy target for Onyxia's manipulations, but one ray of light was able to break her hold, his son Anduin Lane Rin, which meant that Onyxia had to try something else. This time, she used the Defiance Brotherhood to kidnap the king as he was making his way to Proudmoore for a diplomatic mission. She used their magics to split him into two beings, with the idea of taking out his stronger-willed side and leaving his weak-willed one on the throne as an easy puppet to manipulate. Unfortunately for her, the strong-willed one was able to make an escape. He would wash up on the shores of Durotar and be enslaved by Rhaegar Earthfury, who turned him into a gladiator, and then his journey of trying to regain his memories, figure out who he was, could begin. That path would eventually take him to Proudmoore, and although Jaina and Varian had met before, were friendly with each other, she didn't actually recognize him at first, but she did sense something familiar. The magic that had sundered Varian's spirit. It had also enveloped him in an aura of dark magic. These energies, it hid his identity from everyone, even his former friends. Jaina then turned to her chamberlain, the legendary sorceress Aegwynn. The same Aegwynn who had resurrected her son Medivh had now found a way to Proudmoore for help. Together, they called on the magic to pierce the veil over Varian's mind and reveal his identity. Turned out that he was no slave, nor was he a gladiator. He was the rightful king of Stonewind. With that knowledge, he returned home to reveal the truth to his people, but his weak-willed sides also believed that he was the rightful king. There was no imposter at play here, just two sides of the same being split by dark magic. Onyxia then reveals herself and kidnaps Anduin, and then takes him to her lair very close to Proudmoore. Despite their differences, the two Variants felt the same love for their child, so the quest was on. Back at Proudmoore, Jaina helps the two Variants remember exactly what happened to them and make them understand that they are one and the same, divided, where one became Lo'Gush, the champion gladiator, the other was ransomed back to Stonewind and further ensorcelled, while still finding the resolve to break free. For such formidable twins, she had a twin gift. The magical elven blades called Shalator and Elemain. These were forged during the War of the Ancients over 10,000 years ago and then wielded by the twin warriors Vorilian and Lovelian. Between the two of them, they had twice the strength, twice the wisdom, twice the will to strike at Onyxia's dark heart. Sadly, they never really explained how these blades came to be in Jaina's possession, but all the same, their party then rode out and entered the dragon's lair. Together, they were able to overcome the threats waiting inside, and during the battle, Onyxia's attack luckily enough reforged the King of Stormwind into one single being, with his twin blades now turned into Charlemagne.
The line of Stormwind's kings has been restored.
The dragon is slain, her head displayed in Stormwind for all to see, and young Anduin Wrynn is saved. Now with the corruption of the Black Dragonflight removed from Stormwind, and the events of the Burning Crusade proving that the Horde and Alliance they can work together, Jaina then decided to push forward with the planned summit at Proudmoore to try and get some sort of peace going. Now as you might imagine, this was quite an undertaking with the history between the factions. Someone like Varian had lost his father, Stormwind, and so many others during the war against the original Horde. While the Horde, they clearly remember the oppression and the time within the internment camps. It was not going to be easy to sit around the table and negotiate, but wiser and cooler heads, they gave sound advice, and at least they gave it a try. Oddly enough, the meeting actually went quite well. There was Gerarsh Hellscream, son of Gromarsh Hellscream, that joined Thrall back to Azeroth from the homeworld of Outland, who actually wondered why the orcs should make concessions when they had the strength to take what they needed. Anduin simply asked, why waste your warriors and resource in battle when a few words would bring you greater profit? Despite all odds, cooperation between the people, it seemed no longer like an idealistic dream, but a definite possibility. Was it not for Cho'gall and the Twilight Hammer clan? Their aim was bringing about the end of the world. They worshipped the old gods and reveled in chaos. Peace between the factions, that did not really line up with their goals, so they used Garona Half-Orcan, the same orc who murdered Varian's father, to attack Proudmoore and cause chaos. Both sides were quick to point fingers at each other, and although the attack was repelled, the meeting was definitely a bust, and the leaders, they left Proudmoore to focus on the new threat that was rising. Arthas the Lich King was ready to finish what was started, and this time his once beloved Jaina would not run away. The Alliance and the Horde ventured into the cold heart of Northrend to deal with the threat of the Scourge. Things seemed to be going quite nicely, but at the Wrathgate, all hell broke loose. Bolvar Fordragon, seen by Varian as a brother, and the one who advised Anduin and helped rule the kingdom while Varian was kidnapped, he was the one who led the charge for the Alliance. With Dranosh Saurfang, son of Varrock Saurfang, he was leading the Horde to quickly back them up. They ushered their challenge to the Lich King, but Arthas, with Frostmourne in hand, he was no pushover. Dranosh was the first to be struck down, his soul, like so many others, claimed by the blade, but that was just the start.
What? Did you think we had forgotten? Did you think we had forgiven? Behold now the terrible vengeance of the Forsaken! Sylvanas. Death to the Scourge! And death to the living!
Grand Apothecary Putris, together with the Dreadlord Varimafras, they decided that the time had come to betray Sylvanas Windrunner. They struck out at the living and the dead, and they took the Undercity away from the Queen. Sylvanas had her people develop this plague to claim vengeance for what Arthas had done to her, destroy her city of Quel'Thalas, and turn her into a banshee. Now following the disaster at the Wrathgate, Thrall, he sent a summon to Queen Sylvanas, but the Queen was already on her way to meet him. She told the war chief that she had been forced to flee from her home, and as they were working together to plan a counterattack, Jaina convened with their group. Varian, already not too happy with the Horde at this point, he was prepared to lay all responsibility for the Wrathgate at the Horde's feet, unless Jaina could convince him otherwise. So it was that Sylvanas told Jaina of what she knew, and she promised that she would exterminate the traitors who had killed thousands on both sides, including Bolvar Fordragon. When Jaina brought this news to Varian, he greeted Sylvanas' explanation with suspicion, but whether or not the Banshee Queen was lying, Varian, he saw an opportunity. For the moment, the Undercity was not under Horde's control. Perhaps it was time for the Alliance to reclaim the old nation of Lordaeron. Each faction launched separate offensive against the Undercity. With the Hordes, they went for Varimafras, the mastermind behind the coup. While the Alliance, they stormed through the city sewers in search of Putris. Both sides, they claimed their victory, but the tensions between the Alliance and Horde were about to escalate.
I was away for too long. My absence cost us the lives of some of our greatest heroes. Trash like you and this evil witch were allowed to roam free, unchecked. But the time has come to make things right, to disband your treacherous kingdom of murderers and thieves. Putris was the first strike. Many more will come. I've waited a long time for this, Thrall. For every time I was thrown into one of your damned arenas. For every time I killed a green-skinned aberration like you. I could think of only one thing. What our world could be without you and your twisted horde. It ends now, Warchief. Attack! For Stormwind! For Bolvar!
Varian, no! Stop!
It did not have to be like this.
It ends like it began. All that we have fought for in this world is lost. The hopes and dreams carried by my father and mother, by Doomhammer, gone.
Varian wanted Horde blood, while Thrall, he sees all his hopes and dreams of peace with the Alliance simply evaporate. The Wrathgate didn't do any good to the tensions between the factions, but full-scale war that was averted for the moment. In the days to come, the Horde and the Alliance armies, they would frequently clash with each other in Northrend, but only in small and short-lived skirmishes. The real threat, the real danger of the Lich King, that was still looming before them, but another far more ancient evil that was hanging out in Ulduar, quite enjoying the chaos of battle. It was Bran Bronzebeard and the Explorers League that discovered Yogg-Saron. Such a threat, it could not be ignored, so Ronan, leader of the Kirin Tor, he called upon the Alliance and the Horde to unite once more. It was his hope that they would see fit to set aside the differences again, if only for one more battle.
How? How could we have missed this until now? King Varian, thank you for coming on such short notice.
What's this all about, Ronan?
I've called you here to ask for your help. While our efforts against the Lich King press on, Bran here has brought us frightening news of the horrors beneath Ulduar, and of its dark prisoner.
Prisoner? Huh. With its binding shattered, its influence unchecked, it's gonna come after us, and we're gonna be the prisoners.
You can see now what we're up against. If this evil is not stopped, then the armies of the Death God will march on our doorstep.
You'll have to excuse me.
Well, what do you propose we do?
Thrall, what are you doing here so soon?
The summons sounded dire, Jaina. What's happened?
Bran Bronzebeard's forces assaulted the gates of Ulduar. They battled the Iron Lords and their cursed minions.
Evasive action! Evasive action!
He won't stop talking about this presence he felt, permeating the great halls, stirring in their minds, chilling their blood. He said, the horror that the Titans imprisoned so long ago, Yogg-Saron, has awakened.
I want to see this dwarf.
Garrosh?
To see the fear in his eyes. Then we'll know if he's telling the truth.
No, wait!
We are going to need all the help we can get if we are...
Thrall!
What are they doing here?
Let me explain!
I thought I smelled the stench of Alliance pigs.
Control yourself!
You want my blood? Come then, dog!
He's mine.
Stop it!
We have all lost! A great deal in this conflict! But we stand to lose everything if we do not stop fighting and work together!
A true war chief would never partner with cowards.
At the Wrathgate, the Horde's partnership killed more of our men than the Scourge. I'm done with your Horde. May this Death God take you all.
You disappoint me, Garrosh.
The old god is laughing, toying with us.
Who will be our hope?
Who will stand and face Yogg-Saron?
Well, that would be us, of course. Despite our commanders not willing to work together, the Horde and the Alliance, they still stepped up to the challenge, and they took on the threats within Ulduar, including Yogg-Saron. With that out of the way, we could refocus on the Lich King, but only the best and brightest would be allowed to join this assault. Tyrion Fordring, wielding the mighty Ashbringer, he held a little tournament to decide who was ready for the final war. Now you might wonder, why not just send out our full force to assault Icecrown Citadel? But that is exactly what the Lich King wanted. He was holding his forces back, daring his enemies to come to him. Frostmourne hungers, and any soldier that we'd lose would be an additional one fighting for the enemy. No. It was much better to have his small surgical strike force to punch a hole in the Citadel's defenses and fight the way to the Lich King. With the chosen few selected to join the ranks, it was time for our final assault. But while our main force was battering down the door, a small team joined either Sylvanas or Jaina into the frozen halls. For the Alliance, it's the SI-7 who've gathered information about some sort of private sanctum of the Lich King within the Halls of Reflection. Now Jaina, she can sense powerful magic hidden away within those halls. With any luck, we'll find something that will enable us to defeat the Scourge once and for all. We move through the Forge of Souls into the Pit of Sauron, losing as many troops as we save along the way. The Scourge is no joke to take on, but we do find some juicy information, since apparently Frostmourne is left unguarded within the Halls of Reflection. That becomes our target, and while Jaina communes with the spirits locked away within the blade, an old friend appears.
Jaina, could it truly be you?
Uther! Dear Uther! I'm so sorry.
Uther the Lightbringer. He was slain when Arthur returned home to Lordaeron, and he lets us know that there must always be a Lich King. He thinks that the small part of Arthas, which is still left inside the Dark Being, that is all that's keeping the Scourge from annihilating Azeroth. A small, dwindling presence. Perhaps there's still hope, Jaina believes. Perhaps there's something left of the man that she once loved so dearly. Before we can say anything more, the Lich King shows up, leaving us behind with the ghost of the past, while Jaina, she quickly rushes after him.
You won't deny me this, Arthas. I must know. I must find out.
Yet the man that you once knew is truly lost and gone. There is only the Lich King now, his might far beyond anything that we can deal with. Through the tunnels, we run for our lives, knocking down ice wall after ice wall, until we reach dead end.
Nowhere to run. You're mine now.
Fire! Fire! Quickly, climb aboard. We mustn't tarry here. There's no telling when this whole mountainside will collapse.
Forgive me, heroes. I should have listened to Uther. I had to see for myself. To look into his eyes one last time. I am sorry. We now know what must be done. I will deliver this news to King Varian and High Lord Fordring.
And what must be done? That is enter Icecrown Citadel and take on the mightiest forces that the Lich King has to offer. Both the Alliance and Horde, they figured out that Bolvar is actually still alive. He did not die at the Wrathgate and is currently being tortured by the Lich King. Perhaps if they can save him, they can quell the unrest between the factions, so the race is on to save the High Lords.
By the might of the Lich King.
Another victim at the Wrathgate, Draenor Sourfang, he also makes a return, but since his soul was claimed by Frostmourne, he is already a Death Knight.
That was Sourfang's boy, the Horde commander at the Wrathgate. Such a tragic end. What in the... There in the distance! Soldiers, fall in! Looks like the Horde are coming to take another shot! Don't force me hand, Orc. We can't let you pass.
Behind you lies the body of my only son. Nothing will keep me from him.
I can't do it. Get back on your ship and we'll spare your life.
Stand down, Muradin. Let a grieving father pass.
No ko kills Ilnok Hatar. I will not forget this kindness. I thank you, Highness.
I was not at the Wrathgate, but the soldiers who survived told me much of what happened. Your son fought with honor. He died a hero's death. He deserves a hero's burial. Jaina, why are you crying?
It was nothing, Your Majesty. Just... I'm proud of my king.
It appears that Anduin's and Jaina's advice to Varian to see the orcs as more than just the monsters of the past, it's finally rubbing off on him, and he shows respect to Saurfang. This would be Varian's start of the journey of change, to become more balanced after being separated by Onyxia. But at the moment, we still have a king to dethrone. Our forces are able to bring down anything that the Lich King has to throw at us. Even Arthas is brought low, but sadly, Jaina didn't show up during the encounter. It's Bolvar Fordragon who picks up the role of Lich King. He becomes the jailer of the damned. Now we have claimed victory over the Scourge, and amongst the spoils of war, we find a memento of Arthas' past, namely Jaina's locket. Once it held her image, he always wore it close to his heart.
What's this? He kept it. All this time, he kept it. I knew. I sensed a part of him still alive, trapped, struggling. Oh, Arthas. Perhaps he might someday remember what he once was. By the light, may he at last find rest, free from the icy grip of that terrible blade.
She could not bear to keep it, so instead she placed an enchantment upon it and gives it back to us, so we may use it to teleport to Dalaran. So ends the tale of Arthas and Jaina. The threat of the Lich King has been taken care of, and so far she has been a voice of reason for Varian. Together with Anduin, they try to make the king see that peace is an option, that there's more to the Horde than his life has showed him, that Thrall and his people are not the same, just like she tried to do with her father. Only this time, he would listen. Varian would learn to find more balance within himself, yet at the same time, some massive changes are coming, as the Cataclysm is nearly upon us, and with it, many changes to the factions, especially for Jaina. That part of the story we're going to save for next week. So for now, thank you very much for watching, everyone. Subscribe if you like my videos, leave a like if you enjoyed this one, and until next time, guys, see ya!